Champo, we are wrapping the conversation, but what would it mean if what Benjamin Bawku says is true, that the actual report basically suggests, the full report, an outright cancellation, as Benjamin Bawku has suggested, and yet we're being told by the presidency, let SML go ahead and let some aspects of this be renegotiated. What would that mean in your mind as an analyst?
Ben, it's very simple. It just shows that there are other vested interests at play. It's a very simple, matter that if we are able to confirm, and I don't know that, I haven't heard that from my sources, that indeed the recommendation from the audit or the work was an outright contract cancellation, which would actually align with what a number of us, right, were expecting. Because again, we've argued this. You do the analysis and you find that there's nothing, really in there. It's pie in the sky stuff, right? Then it shows. And if the presidency is now saying, they may terminate and do this, and instead of shall and all of that, then again it shows you an attempt to soften that stance. And normally, from a political economy point of view, you know that, of course, there are bigger hands, behind this that are pushing because people have their vested interest to protect. It's very simple.
Well, gentlemen, if you have any final words, we can take them right before we proceed. I'll start with you, Ben Bawku, maybe in some 30 seconds each. Ben Bawku, starting with you.
No, I think we need a report, and that we're hoping that report will be analytical and detailed enough to show us how the state benefits from this transaction, and also the job of other state institutions are clearly cut out for them. If you're paying $1 billion plus for an investment of that nature, the audit service has to do a performance audit of this contract, be able to establish how that benefit actually accrues for the kind of investment that would have been done. It's a clear cutout job for them. The special prosecutor has a job clearly defined for him. How do you get such a contract done without going through the established protocols and processes? I mean, their jobs are cut out for them, and we expect that they will act expeditiously to save the interest of the state.
Final words, Dr. Theo Champo.
Quickly, from my side, given the legal breaches, there's enough ground to terminate the contract. I do not see the value that has been, accrued. The numbers that SML is claiming to have invested, 177.5 million, would have to be further interrogated, and I suspect it's far lower than that. There could be a lot of overinflation of the amounts, and we do not need the work that they claim to have done. So I'm actually expecting the contract to be terminated going forward. And like Ben said, I lend again my voice to the audit service to look into this with a proper performance audit, and of course the OSP and other institutions to look into that. But we have enough grounds on the legal front, enough grounds on the technical front to actually, scrap this contract.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, for having joined the conversation. There will still be more time going into the future to deliberate on some of these matters. Benjamin Bawku is Executive Director of the Africa Center for Energy Policy. And of course, we also had Dr. Theo Champong joining the conversation. He's a political risk analyst. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time. Now, before we move on to our next conversations, if you're a Christian in any area of leadership and you need more power for impact, then join the host and speaker, Archbishop Charles Agyinasare, and other seasoned speakers from Ghana, Prophet Nanasse Sarkodie, Reverend Dr. Steve Wengham, Reverend Mrs. Vivian Agyinasare, and from Nigeria, Reverend Samuel O. Olubiyo, Apostle Richard Udo from Congo, and Apostle Yves Castanu. And the theme is how to walk in the power of God. It will be a time of insight, inspiration, and impartation. The date is Monday, the 29th of April to Sunday, the 5th of May, 2024. The time is 8:30 a.m. and 5:30 p.m. at the Perez Dome at Jowolu Junction in Accra. If you'd like to get more information about this event, just call 0548 633 650. That is 0548 633 650, or visit www.sesummit.org. SE Summit is one word. www.sesummit.org. Supernatural Empowerment Summit. That's what it is. Receive power for impact. We'll be right back.
The race for the Jubilee House is beginning. Ghana is at a crossroads. It's time again for the people to choose, and the world is watching. We will do this because in a nation where every vote counts, where every voice matters, there's one name you can trust for your election coverage. JoyNews, your election headquarters. Our team of seasoned journalists will bring you up-to-the-minute updates, unbiased analysis, and the stories behind the headlines. The election headquarters for an informed electorate. JoyNews, independent, fearless, credible.
Welcome back on the AM show. Now, it's the commemoration of World Malaria Day. It serves as a poignant reminder of the ongoing battle against one of humanity's oldest and deadliest foes. Oh, did you say you got bitten by a mosquito recently? Well, malaria is a disease that has plagued civilizations for centuries, and it continues to exact a heavy toll on communities around the world, particularly in regions like ours, where access to healthcare and resources is limited. However, amidst this challenge, there exists a beacon of hope, a global movement aimed at raising awareness and fostering action to combat this relentless scourge. Now, Bliss GVS Pharma Ghana holds this day very significant as it underscores our unwavering commitment and dedication to improving global health outcomes. So you may be afraid of the HIV, AIDS, and all those other things, but have you taken stock of how many people die of malaria, especially in tropical Africa? Joining us for a conversation on this, we have David Deladem Tete. He is Chief Pharmacist, and Jean. Okay, so I think I'll have to, what's the first name again?
Jean.
Jean.
Yeah.
With a double N.
Yes.
Okay, that's interesting. I didn't want to butcher his name. Jean Bwedi Boateng. He is Manager, Greater Accra and Eastern Region. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining the conversation.
Thank you for having us.
If I asked you as just a pot boiler, sort of, what's the state of malaria in our part of the world, what would you say? I know, I've thrown a hot potato at you.
The state of malaria in our part of the world is scary, very scary, in the sense that the number of people that die on a daily basis, extrapolating to monthly, to yearly, it's a lot. So it's a scary look at how our part of the world is handling the oldest and deadliest disease, that is the malaria.
I'd like, though, Jean, for you to elaborate a bit on the significance of World Malaria Day. I mean, year in, year out, we do this and all of that. Are we even making any impact?
Yeah, we are. We are. So I think yesterday or last 2 days, we normally have donations to hospitals. Yesterday, something interesting happened at one hospital. The amount of drugs we wanted to give them, they were like, oh, they might not be able to consume that much. because the cases of malaria they get
Have fallen, eh?
has dropped. Yes. And I was like, wow, that's very interesting, because hitherto they would have been wanting to take all these drugs to use. But now it looks like, well, in some areas, in some vicinities, the cases of malaria has dropped. So we are making headway.
Well, I've been reading some of the reports in the past, and indeed, we are making some inroads, but in some other parts of the country, it's still a dire situation. That's what we ought to be tackling. But tell us about Act for Africa, the ACT, Act for Africa, and this initiative. Tell us a bit more about that.
So the ACT is basically an acronym for the artemisinin-based combination therapy. It's a campaign that Bliss GVS Pharma has taken upon itself to embark on. And in this same campaign, we are embarking on journeys where we are looking forward to making significant contributions into eliminating malaria in our parts of the world. So we do this through donations of medications to hospitals. We do education in nursing training centers, market activation. We meet one-on-one with various stakeholders. And then we go through severe and series of education on malaria and how to help eliminate malaria. Yes.
So we are looking for a malaria-free continent, huh?
That's the ultimate goal.
That's a tall order.
Yes.
To add to what he said, the ACT also means act, to act now. So we are not just waiting for the rainy season to start before we start making noise on malaria, how to make sure you sleep in treated mosquito nets, clear your choked gutters. So whenever you get the chance, just act now. If you're given a drug, take everything. If you can prevent a mosquito bite, act now.
In the past, some of your leadership has spoken about, this drive and your commitment to improving global health. Bliss, how do you see that happening in terms of tackling malaria? Let's start from right here with Ghana. Even as you talk global, let's start from right here in Ghana. What are some of the things you're doing beyond this?
So aside the donations, we have, they are called CMEs, Continuous Medical Educations with health facilities. So let's say, for example, let's say we go to Kolebu, and we engage maybe the pediatrics departments. We have talks on our drugs. We have talks on how they can engage their clients. We go to pharmacies. We talk to the pharmacists. We talk to the MCAs. For example, if someone comes that, oh, I have malaria, you just don't serve an anti-malaria drug. You first do the test. Even after giving them the drug, how they should take it. Some people take the first 2 days, and once they are feeling okay, they just stop. So aside the donations, we engage these health professionals to also talk to their clients and patients.
It is impressive, though, that for some years now you've been on this campaign, seeking to fight malaria.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm careful about using the word eradicate because it's another ball game.
Yes.
If you go to Cuba, where I've spent some time, they've succeeded in that. But they have other things like Zika, among others in that region. But what would you say has been achieved in these last few years of your drive?
So we look at the medication donations we are working on now, and then once we start tracking the donations, we realize that the medicines we are donating to the various hospitals are being used, and then in these particular hospitals in the areas, the malaria cases have reduced. And that to us is an achievement.
So the caseload has gone down?
Yes, in those areas. So we're looking at making it a holistic, something we are looking at. So in the long term, we're trying to make sure that if not totally, we will just reduce the cases of malaria in our country. I mean, we can't do this on our own, so we have other stakeholders that we are partnering with.
And in terms of these health institutions, generally the feedback has been positive, right?
Very positive.
Very positive.
Very positive. I think last 2 days we even went to National Malaria Elimination Program.
Yes.
We also went there to partner with them to find out what help they need from us, so we can also support them in fighting malaria. Yeah. So I think quite a number of people are interested in trying to eradicate malaria in quotes.
You've also had some engagements with health institutions, the training schools, nursing schools, and the rest. What exactly is the target of such engagements? What are you hoping to achieve? What have you achieved so far?
So
okay.
We can start with you. And
yes.
He'll chip in.
So we're engaging the health professionals because they are in the first line meets with the patients. So when somebody falls ill to malaria, they go to the hospital, they meet the nurses, the doctors. So we engage the nurses and the doctors because they have a direct contact with the patients.
Right.
And so far, we have achieved this with our interactions with the nurses, with the doctors, with the various CMEs we are doing, the educations we are having with the nursing training schools, and in market activations, so that we also need to educate the people that so once you get malaria, you don't need to do that on your own, do the treatment on your own. You need to get tested either at a pharmacy or a hospital first before you get into the treatment.
Okay, Jane?
So I think you spoke of the nursing training. So the idea behind the nursing training was that normally in the vicinity, once someone gets to know that he or she is a nurse, mostly any illness at all, any disease at all, the first person they'll go is to the nurse, anti-nurse, or this. So we try to educate them on malaria, because malaria has symptoms close to other diseases. So let's say if someone in the community comes to you as a nurse that his or her child has malaria, what should you do? What are the steps you should take? What education can you give to the person? Wherever you are staying, would you be able to communicate with your community to just check out for choked gutters, treated nets, and all that? So that was the idea behind the nursing training schools.
Moving forward, what then is the plan? Bliss, GVS, and what can we look forward to when it comes to eradicating malaria? I have used your term, which I try to stay away from.
Malaria.
What is the plan?
So the plan for Bliss GVS ultimately is that for us being a research-centered institution, we are looking at innovative ways to tackling this disease. So different formulations of the medication, whether be it tablet, suspension, suppository, any other injections, any other way that we can be creative enough to tackle this disease. We are looking into these areas, and hopefully we are going to achieve what we set before us.
You're hoping to make some major inroads in that.
We are very positive.
Just to add to what he was saying.
Right.
So I think last year we even launched a drug that you have to take just one tablet a day for 3 days, because we also had feedback from the doctors that for some of the medications, patients are not able to stick to their doses. So we had to go back, come out with new ideas to how to make patients adhere to their medications.
So with the regular Lonats, taking 3 times, twice daily, 3 times, like 3 days, twice in a day. Now with this new...
No, I completely understand. I have friends who tell you, Charlie, they've taken it for a few days, they're feeling better and they want to stop. And you tell them, follow through. But people naturally, so maybe if it's simpler, 3 tablets, they are good to go.
So
but how can other institutions, organizations partner you, help, support, so that you get to the end of the race, the finish line?
Right.
Quick thoughts on that.
Yes. So we are grateful to the National Malaria Elimination Program, because once we reached out to them, they also expressed their interest into combating this disease. So if anybody out there wants to take this on to, they can just reach out to the Ministry of Health, reach out to us, reach out to the National Elimination Program, and then we just partner, draw a plan, and then we just tackle the disease.
Gene, final words, any call to action?
So I would like to educate all of us, including myself. Let's look at the preventive aspects, even as much as looking at the curing aspects. Let's try to prevent malaria. So in the long run, we would have a very safe country.
All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for having joined the conversation. Of course, we are grateful for the work you're doing. Mosquitoes don't discriminate. They bite everybody. So
They don't.
if you think you are hiding in your corner, and just one can do damage. Those who joined us for this conversation, David Deladem Tete, he is Chief Pharmacist, and then Jean Wedi-Boateng, Manager Greater Accra and Eastern Region. They are with Bliss GVS. Stay with us. We'll be back with more action right here on the AM Show.
Thanks for joining us on Focus on Africa. I'm Waihiga Mwaura.
This is a covert operation on the hunt to catch a criminal.
We've been here for nearly a week and this camp seems to grow every day.
The nightmare of hyperinflation has haunted Zimbabwe for over 20 years now.
Why is racism seemingly such a hard nut to crack for Laliga?
I think they are the first to say that they have not done enough.
Now to a new bill that could change the lives of African students in the United Kingdom, but not for the better. Well, joining me now in studio is Anita Nkonge, the BBC's youth reporter. I imagine there have been quite some reactions to that announcement by the UK government.
Yes, a whole bunch of mixed reactions.
For months, I've been investigating a form of blackmail that has become so prevalent in Nigeria that it's got its own name: keto.
How widespread would you say this blackmail phenomenon known as keto is in Nigeria?
Every week they get about 20 to 30 reports of cases of people saying that they either were close to be blackmailed.
The BBC's Umaru Fofana is in Freetown.
Hardly would anybody have predicted that in our lifetime we would see it lying down like this.
Climate change is here, and it's still, it is here. We have to change our ways, or it is going to teach us a lot of lessons.
The Adventure Living Water Expedition is a research expedition and also a swim to draw attention to the influx of textiles to Ghana, specifically second-hand clothing waste.
What can the citizens themselves do to protect themselves?
So look at how you can empower the health sector, education and agriculture and the water sector.
It is not that Spain is a racist country, but that they acknowledge that there is a problem of education that must be dealt with.
The BBC's Nyasha Michelle has been talking to the British actress and finding out more about the show.
What would you say to those who are saying it's pushing a particular Afrocentrism narrative?
Why, if there's a possibility that she might have been of biracial heritage, she can't be played by an actress of biracial heritage?
From me and the rest of the Focus on Africa team, it's goodbye.
Welcome back on the AM show. Now, as we go, yes, we're going to be having some interesting conversations as far as the GRA is concerned. But first, let me find out from you. Are you a resident of Ghana earning income abroad? Have you declared and paid taxes on the income that you earn abroad? The GRA is giving an opportunity to all resident persons in Ghana, that is individuals and entities, to voluntarily declare their income held abroad within a specified window in order to be relieved of payments of penalties and interest for non-disclosure or false or misleading statements. So take advantage of the policy now. The GRA can be reached by email on info@gra.gov.gh and on WhatsApp on the number 0552 990 000 and 0200 631 664 or call toll-free number 0800 900 110. Just take note of that. And you might be asking, who is a resident? Well, the tax laws define a resident as any individual who is a citizen with a permanent home in Ghana, residing in the country throughout the year, is present in Ghana for at least 183 days in any 12-month period, and that's about half of the year, that begins or ends within the year, is a government employee or official posted abroad, is a citizen temporarily absent from Ghana for not more than 365 continuous days, and maintains a permanent home in Ghana. So again, the GRA can be reached via email on info@gra.gov.gh, by WhatsApp on 0552 990 000 and 0200 631 664. Or you can call their toll-free number 0800 900 110. Now, joining me in the studio for a conversation on this, I have Mr. Paul Ahe. He is Chief Revenue Officer and Head of Exchange of Information Unit. And we also have Michael Edu, who's Head Compliance and Enforcement with the GRA. Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning.
The residents must pay, eh?
Exactly.
To a large extent. Let me start with you, Mr. Ahe. Give us a proper breakdown of what this tax on foreign incomes is all about.
Thank you very much. The discussion these days makes it look as if it's a new tax. But the fact is that in 2015, Ghana actually amended our income tax law and introduced a new way of taxing resident persons. And so we used to do what we call the territorial concept of taxation, and we moved from that in 2015 to from 2015 to now, we are doing what we call the worldwide concept of taxation. So let me just break down the two for you. So with the territorial, which we were practicing in the past, what it meant was that we only tax resident persons on income that is sourced in Ghana. And so income that is generated in Ghana is only subjected to tax. If you earn a foreign income during those days, you need to bring the money into Ghana or receive it in Ghana or transmit it to Ghana for the purposes of settling a debt or buying a movable property. And that was a bit cumbersome to implement. And so globally, we moved to what we call the worldwide taxation of income. What it means is that resident persons are supposed to declare their income worldwide from various sources to various jurisdictions on a yearly basis for tax purposes. And so that has been the approach that we are using currently. And so its implementation has been there, but we are trying to make it more effective this time around based on some international collaborations that we are having with other jurisdictions who can provide us with the necessary information for us to be able to implement it effectively.
So which category of people are liable to this foreign income tax? I mean, someone may be sitting and saying, I'm no expat in the country or something. I am not here. I'm not working with a foreign mission. I know some of them have arrangements. Is it that Kojo has a job that he's secured, remote work that he's secured in the US and he's earning dollars and he must account for that? What is the situation?
Exactly.
Break it down for
And
us.
so with your introduction, actually you define who a resident person is. And so you should be ordinarily living in Ghana as a citizen with a permanent home in Ghana to be able to pay this tax. It is tax for people who reside in Ghana. And if you are from other nationalities, you have to live in Ghana for 183 days before you qualify or you be counted to pay this type of tax. Or, as you said, if you work with a foreign mission, you are a Ghanaian posted to work with a foreign mission, we'll still consider you as a permanent resident in Ghana for tax purposes. And so any income that has its source in any other jurisdiction that you, the resident person living in Ghana, engages in and receive that income is considered as a foreign income, which the law prescribes that taxes should be paid on.
Okay, so does this tax, like he said, for even clearer explanation, does it affect Ghanaians living abroad? Who is described as a resident person?
Okay, so to the extent that you are a resident person for tax purposes in Ghana and you have that income elsewhere, you need to disclose it for tax purposes in Ghana. So we're not looking at during the time we are filing your returns where you happen to be technical.
So and I'm just saying this for clarity. If the person is Ghanaian but is working outside the country but has spent 182 days in Ghana, does that person qualify?
Okay.
Because you have the magic number 183, about half the year, right?
Yeah.
So just to clarify.
If you are an employee and the source of that employment income or the employer is a non-resident person, then that income from employment would not be subjected to this review.
All right.
And so just to add, if you are a citizen of Ghana and you are living in the UK permanently, you come 180 days. You don't qualify to pay taxes in Ghana. because you wouldn't have lived in Ghana for 183 days or more. And
Okay.
so where you live permanently, which in the UK, you probably would have lived 183 days or more. Then you then qualify to pay your taxes in the UK and not in Ghana.
So how is this tax calculated, and what are taxable incomes, by the way?
Okay, taxable income per the definition of the Act, we're looking at any income that is not exempted under the Income Tax Act. So we may have to look at the exclusions.
Okay.
Once we take off the exclusions, all the other incomes or earnings should be reviewed for tax purposes. And we're looking at the income of government organizations or entities. We're also looking at non-commercial entities of governmental nature. We're looking at pension income, and we're also looking at income for a cocoa farmer from the cocoa activity. And any other income that is explicitly exempted from tax. Once we exclude these ones, any other income should be taxed appropriately in Ghana.
Okay.
So
tax credits are accounted for, and the difference is what you pay. And so when you are filing your returns, we aggregate all your income from employment, from business, from investment, globally. Then we make sure we deduct all deductions that are allowable under the law to arrive at your chargeable income.
I see.
Then this chargeable income, if you're an individual, we apply the individual tax rate, which is graduated, and then if you're a company, we apply the company flat rate to arrive at your tax.
Right.
Then we grant you the foreign tax credit, as you have mentioned.
I see.
Then the net is what is payable to GRA.
So for those who are watching and contemplating and now thinking, oh, maybe I fall in the bracket, what will be the consequences, punitive or otherwise, of non-disclosure or non-filing?
the Income Revenue Administration Act imposes penalties for non-filing of returns, and it's enshrined in the Section 73. And on default, you pay a penalty of 500 penalty currency units, and any other day of default, 10 currency points will be would attract 10 currency.
Are these graduated?
No, these are absolute figures. So
Okay.
the 500 on default and 10 on any other day in default. That in the case of CST, it's 2,000 currency points on default and 500 currency points on any other day of default.
All right. So what are the benefits? We've spoken about the consequences if you don't, but what are the benefits? We have limited time, but you go ahead.
So the benefit is that there is a section in the Act that actually also gives what we call commissioner is able to grant you waivers for these penalties. Right. And it's under Section 74 of the Act. So once you come in voluntarily to actually make these disclosures, you will not be sanctioned as my...
So retrospectively, you will not be affected.
So
but
in the
moving
past,
on,
we're moving forward, we expect that you start doing the right things.
Okay.
But all the, I would say, the omissions that you committed in the past, when you come under Section 74 and you come in voluntarily, those will be waived.
In other words, in taxman's religious terms, go and sin no more.
Go and sin no more. Okay. Absolutely.
All right. Final words, Mike.
Just to encourage taxpayers as part of their civil responsibility to file their income tax returns religiously, and we make sure Ghana grows.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen, for having joined the conversation. Ghana thrives on taxes. We pay our taxes, the nation moves on. And those who joined us, Paul Ahe is head Exchange and Information Unit at the GRA. We also had Michael Edu Owusu, Chief Revenue Officer and Head of Compliance and Enforcement with the Now, as we go, we actually are going to look at our photo of the day. Ready for that? Here we go. I found myself in Esuchwari yesterday, and where I was, the blistering heat, it was maddening. And that is what you saw, the heat. And the trotro driver had to, get out and, do some washing of his face. I didn't say the mate, I said the driver had to get out and wash his face. But the heat is real. And there's also something called sunstroke or heat stroke. So as you go about your daily activities, don't forget to rehydrate. It is important so you don't suffer the consequences of the blistering heat. But we've enjoyed our time with you this morning. For those of you who watch us every day and make this show what it is, we appreciate you. From Sweetie Abochi and yours truly, we say thank you, we love you, have a wonderful day. Up next is Joy News Desk. Stay for that.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to JoyNews. We're coming to you live from our studios in Kokomlimi. Coming up this morning, Doomsor to end in a few days. Words of ECG board chairman as he apologizes to Ghanaians for the pain caused by the incessant outages.
Arrangements in place to procure additional fuel to run all our thermal plants and power producing plants.
Also this morning, newly outdoored NDC running mate Professor Jane Nana Opoku-Agyeman vows all public officials will be prosecuted in the next NDC administration.
John and I have agreed that whoever has participated in the plunder of the state must be held accountable.
She will have oversight, among others, of the education sector, the health sector, gender and social protection.
Plus, Fourth Estate demands publishing of full KPMG audit report in the GRA SML contract after the president asked GRA to continue with the contract to monitor the downstream petroleum sector.
Would be very measured
in perhaps attacking KPMG until I see the KPMG report. Because I did a JIDA investigation, the president issued some directives on the JIDA report.
We have details for you shortly. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. Please do stay for details. President Akufo-Addo has reiterated his government's commitment in investing in the country's power sector. He says several policies and measures have been outlined to incentivize green investment and foster a culture of energy efficiency. President Akufo-Addo made the statement at the commissioning of 15 peak megawatt solar power plants at Kaliu in the Upper West region. JoyNews' Upper West regional correspondent Rafiq Salam has more.
President Akufo-Addo noted that the commissioning of the 15 megawatt solar power project at Kaliu is not just about providing electricity, but represented a fundamental shift towards sustainable development. He averred that renewable energy sources such as solar power does not only reduce the country's reliance on fossil fuel, but also help reduce the effect on climate change as well.
By investing in renewable energy infrastructure, we're securing a reliable source of electricity and creating new opportunities for economic growth and job creation. This plant will not only power homes and businesses, but also serve as a catalyst for development in the Upper West region, attracting investment and spurring innovation. To this end, government is implementing a series of policies and measures to incentivize green investments, foster a culture of energy efficiency, and prioritize the development of solar, wind, and hydroelectric power projects as key strategies for the growth of the energy sector in the country. Vision, however, is not only to be energy self-sufficient, but also to set the stage for Ghana to emerge as an eco-friendly country in the region, inspiring neighboring countries to follow suit in their pursuit of a greener, more energy technology-centered future.
President Akufo-Addo spoke of the benefits that the people in the region and the country at large will derive from the commissioning of the solar power plant.
From this plant, adding 15 megawatts of power to the national electricity grid will also improve the quality of power supply in the Upper West region, reduce national carbon emissions by displacing energy that gas-fired thermal plants would otherwise have generated. I'm told that is estimated at 8,117 tons. It will also promote practical studies in the development of solar power by the technical universities in the northern part of the country. As I indicated 2 years ago, government is continuously investing in the electricity transmission network to enable the country to evacuate more reliable renewable energy through the national grid to support the extension of electricity to all parts of the country.
Deputy Minister for Energy, Herbert Krapper, assured Ghanaians of the plans put in place by President Akufo-Addo to ensuring that the power outages in the country are a thing of the past.
His Excellency the President has led all of us in the power sector to ensure that we're putting arrangements in place to procure additional fuel to run all our thermal plants and power producing plants at full capacity. And His Excellency the President has also led realignment of operational and technical arrangements in the entire power sector value chain, which is the reason I'm able to assure the people of Ghana that in the next few days, the power challenges that we are seeing under the leadership of His Excellency the President, it will be a thing of the past.
The project was funded by the German Development Bank, KfW, at 60 million euros with counterpart funding from the Voluntary Authority, VRA, PEC at 8.2 million euros. Kofi Tutuajare is the board chair of Voluntary Authority.
Aside from confirming our commitment to ensure the provision of clean and reliable and sustainable power, the completion of this plant today has enormous benefits to the Kaleo community and by extension the northern parts of the country. I think it is true to say that with this plant up and running, this community will be the first community in Ghana, including the Wa area, to run solely on solar power on good days.
There were representatives from the Spanish, German embassies, and the European Union at the function. Our Powers Regional Minister, Stephen Yakubu, disclosed that the project is of enormous importance to the people, starting from the construction stage, which has employed several people in the region.
During its construction phase, the project provided employment opportunities for several individuals, with 95% hailing from nearby communities. Additionally, the project's corporate social responsibility initiatives, including the rehabilitation of the Kaleo DA Primary School, improvement of road infrastructure, and the potential for tourism development, exemplify our commitment to holistic development and community empowerment.
The Kaleo solar power plant will increase Ghana and VRA capacity to 50 megawatts. It will also diversify the energy portfolio by adding more renewable energy to its fold. Reporting for JoyNews, Rafik Salam, Kaleo.
Board chair of the Electricity Company of Ghana, Herbert Krapa, has since apologized to Ghanaians for the intermittent power cuts. The apology was posted on his Facebook page. It reads, and we'll be reading it for you shortly. You'll have it on your screens. He's been apologizing to you for your patience. And he says, we are fully confident that the measures put in place will fix the problem shortly. And he says that we empathize with all consumers and apologize unreservedly for the effects of the outages on our daily lives. Meanwhile, the Institute of Climate and Environmental Governance has since been offering some expert analysis on who must provide a load shedding, and I'll be sharing excerpts of that statement with you shortly. The Institute of Climate and Environmental Governance has taken note of recent statements made by the Senior Presidential Advisor, Yao Osafo-Maafo. The statement suggested only the Energy Minister possesses the authority to order the publication of a power rationing timetable. In light of the ensuing concerns, ICEG aims at providing clarification on this matter and underscore the importance of collaborative efforts and transparency in addressing the challenges. While acknowledging the critical role of government agencies, including Ministry of Energy, managing and coordinating energy-related activities, it is crucial to emphasize the provision of Section 3 of the Public Utilities Regulatory Act, Act 538. According to this section, the PURC is tasked with safeguarding the interests of both consumers and utility service providers. Additionally, the PURC is empowered to perform any other function incidental to its primary responsibility. Given that the publication of the DUMSA timetable directly impacts consumers' activities and interests, the PURC has authority to order its release. Contrary to the Senior Presidential Advisor's statement, the decision to publish the DUMSA timetable is not solely within the purview of the Energy Minister. Instead, it necessitates a coordinated approach involving input from various institutions, including the PURC. Meanwhile, workers of the Electricity Company of Ghana in the Ashanti region say they have been forced to abandon the revenue mobilization exercise for fear of their lives. They say they are afraid the conduct of the Ashanti Regional Minister Simon Osei-Mensah, who ordered the arrest of the General Manager for Ashanti Region, Ashanti East, for failing to connect Kumasi Technical University, could embolden members of the public to attack the staff. Chairman of the Senior Staff Association of ECG Ashanti West, John Mensah, tells JoyNews the action of the Regional Minister has affected the performance of the workers.
The workers are in red as they hoist red flags in protest of the arrest of the Ashanti East General Manager for failing to heed calls to reconnect power to Kumasi Technical University. The workers say they have been infuriated by the conduct of the Ashanti Regional Minister, Simon Osei-Mensah, who also doubles as chairman of the Regional Security Council, RESEC. They have been demanding an unqualified apology from the regional minister and also withdrawing the police case. Chairman of the Senior Staff Association of ECG Ashanti West, John Mensah, says the workers are afraid of their lives as a result of the conduct of the Ashanti Regional Minister.
We are still going on the revenue mobilization exercise. Our people are there. They are disconnecting, they are collecting revenue. So if the minister can call the arrest of a general manager for a region, then the staff are not safe. The staff who are doing the revenue mobilization in order to get money to fuel the plant and then to take us out of the energy crisis. And you, the minister, you are still pushing, you are encouraging that they shouldn't pay their bill. Then I think that one is unfortunate. So that is why we are saying that you should withdraw the case from the police station so that the staff have the confidence to visit the houses or the premises and collect the revenue. It's a form of threat. It's a form of threat to our members.
On Monday, the National Executive Council of the ECG Workers Union barred all 4 regional managers of the company in the Ashanti region, who are automatic members of the Ashanti Regional Security Council, from attending meetings called by the regional minister. Vice Chairman of the Senior Staff Association, Bismarck Adoma, tells JoyNews the workers have been infuriated by the regional minister, who has been defending his action on radio.
You only heard me on radio defending what he did. It makes us uncomfortable. Somebody doing his genuine work and causing his arrest, and you are on radio defending it. So it makes us very, very uncomfortable.
Meanwhile, the workers warned their next line of action could be dire if the regional minister fails to apologize or withdraw the case against the general manager. Yusuf Osmanu Abdullahi is the chairman of the Senior Workers Union, Ashanti East.
We are not deterred. Even if his house is owing, it should be prepared. We are coming on him.
Disconnect him.
Yes. If you are owing, you are a customer, you need to pay. That's all. If he's not owing, we don't have problem with him. But if he's owing, we are coming on him, so you should be prepared. I told you this is the first step, and we have a series of, and if we get to the bridge, we will cross it. The vulnerable is owing and we are disconnecting. How much more the regional minister? It's better for him, or someone should tell him to go and withdraw the case and apologize to the entire ECG fraternity. The workers' front are not happy with his actions.
From Kumasi, for JoyNews, Oimenteria reporting.
NDC running mate Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman has vowed the next NDC administration will prosecute corrupt government officials. She made the promise at her outdooring last night at the University of Professional Studies, Accra. She also took a swipe at government over what she believes is mismanagement of the economy. My colleague James Saveji has more.
Draped in the symbolic red, white, green and black colors of the umbrella, hundreds of NDC sympathizers and party bigwigs gather here at the UPSA auditorium in Accra to witness the outdooring of Professor Nana Opoku-Agyeman as running mate to John Dramani Mahama.
Professor Jane Nana Opoku Agyeman.
Chairman of the party, Johnson Asedu Nketia, set the tone for the night by bursting the bubbles of those anxiously waiting for appointment in the next NDC government.
Some people are not only fighting about the positions they will occupy. They are telling all others that they will be the kingmakers and they will be making their appointment. If we are not careful, this will dampen the enthusiasm and the spirit of our followers.
Rolling out her vision to party faithfuls and Ghanaians, Professor Jane Nana Opoku Agyeman did not shy away from taking a swipe at government.
I don't know about you, but the image I get looking at that hole is a trench in utter shock that anyone could believe it was intended as a Thanksgiving gift to the Almighty, invisible, God only wise. Such a report will not find COVID money shared for partisan political campaign purposes. I will not, in the advancement of self-serving ambition, declare to the whole world that I was only the driver's mate.
So what will her government offer Ghanaians?
The report will highlight new roads, harbors, railway lines, not what we've seen of late, Ayalolo buses. You will find the lack of intimidation of opposing voices. You will find serious investment and practice to enable a digitized economy and society. The report will go on to point at housing projects, including the famous Saglemi housing complex, and even those that somebody has happily raised to make room for a presumed.
Knowing the role Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is playing as head of the economic management team and lead on government digitization agenda and what may be expected of the next Vice President, former President John Dramani Mahama explains what the exact job description of his Vice President will be.
She has great insights into human resource management, empowerment and social development. And under my administration, she will have oversight, among others, of the education sector, the health sector, gender and social protection.
Professor Jane Nana Opoku Agyeman says the next NDC administration will deal with all corrupt government officials.
John and I have agreed that whoever has participated in the plunder of the state must be held accountable. And my friends, this is not a threat, it is a promise.
As to whether this second John and Jane ticket will deliver victory for the NDC come December 7, 2024, the race has just begun. James Abeji, Joy News.
Well, I've been joined by Dr. Kwame Asasante. He's Senior Political Science Lecturer at the Department of Political Science at the University of Ghana for a conversation. I'm grateful for your time, Doc. Let me first gauge your appreciation of Professor Nana Jane Opoku Agyeman's delivery yesterday. Hello, Doc. Kindly unmute for me.
Good morning to you, Aisha. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear, Doc.
Right. I think yesterday what we witnessed was nothing but a true reflection of what somebody who intends to be a leader, and specifically we're talking about running mate, has to be. You are bold, you are fearless, and then you are aware of the problems of the society, and you are ready to fix them when opportunity comes your way. And that is exactly what we saw.
There's much talk about how the professor's partnership will increase the NDC's fortunes, especially in the central region. What are your thoughts on this? Is it automatic?
Yeah, sometimes, and I've been following media conversation about what he brought to the ticket the last time and what is it going to be this time around. That conversation about what he brought to the ticket, I don't know where it's coming from, because I am ready to see any research that people have done that is able to disaggregate the votes that parties obtained in the last election, for you to know that this one, it was Nana who brought it, this one, it was John Mahama. These are other facts, these relate to other factors and all that. All that I'm saying is that there are various factors that influence voter choices. One is the economy, infrastructure development, the fight against corruption, rule of law, unemployment, and a host of them, in addition to what? Energy and energy crisis, how you are going to fix this. So, of course, I am not oblivious of the fact that the personality of what the president or the running mate or the flag bearer is also critical. Some people look at these things. But beyond that, people look at even constituency-specific issues. If there's a place where they are looking for market for women to what? Apply their vocation, and they don't find that. They don't care a hoot about who is the running mate or the leader of the party. So that argument that what did she bring the last time, for me, is a WAP argument. The whole, analysis is wrong. There are so many factors. But of course, if you have anybody who is going to be in the seat as what? A running mate, you should have certain qualities that will really allow people to what? Follow her. People will support her. That will also make it attractive to people to follow. But that person alone cannot be the factor that influence voter choice. So all the analysis you see in the media are basically wrong analysis. I must be blunt about it. All right. Yes. If you look at Nana,
go ahead, Doc.
If you look at Nana's, yes, inclusion in the tickets, obviously you are looking at somebody who is experienced. You are looking at somebody who is popular. You are talking about a game of numbers, so popularity counts a lot. Her university work and the work as a politician in the ministry, which is Ministry of Education. Remember, in politics, the ministry will make you popular or not. And once you are looking at Ghanaian society, almost every home, there is what? Education going on. So if there's a policy the minister, during her tenure, was able to put in place, it's obviously her name become a household name, and the rest of this add to the popularity. You are looking for somebody who can step into the shoes of the president when the president is incapable of continuing his tenure. You are looking at somebody with many constituencies. Look at this woman. It comes from so many constituencies, apart from her natural constituency of the central region, specifically where she comes from in a particular constituency. She also appeals to the gender groups, academics, women, by and large, and the general society. Of course, the NDC as a party. So all these things are things that are going to support her to be able to add to the ticket and make the ticket meaningful.
For many, Professor Jane Nano Pokwajiman's promise, because she actually emphasized that it's not a threat, but it's a promise that the NDC will go after people who plunder the state, so they face the full rigors of the law. It's quite refreshing. But whether that will ever happen is what many are questioning now. Do you believe that can ever happen, considering how politicians cover up for each other?
All these things can be done if the leaders themselves decide that, look, we will make sure that there is accountability, there's probity. After all, this is not a threat. If you read our constitution, the preamble of it, part of it saying that we, the people of this country, believe in accountability. That at each point in time, we will hold our leaders for their actions and inactions. That's it. And if you extend the conversation to the concept of good governance, accountability is a critical component of it, that public officers will be held to account for their stewardship of their office. So that is there for everybody. And in governance, anybody who leaves office, be prepared that you'll be called upon at any time to answer questions. And that's not a threat. It's part of the oils that grease the wheels of governance so that it doesn't bring it to a halt. So I think that if NDC is serious about it, and it's not going to be just a mere talk, then we want to see them, if power is given to them, implementing this thing to the fullest. Otherwise, let them remember that in politics, what goes around comes around. If you promise this, you are given opportunity, and you do otherwise, the next time you want your mandate to be renewed, I'm afraid you are not going to get that.
Already, the flag bearer has indicated some sensitive sectors that she will directly have control over when the NDC, or if the NDC wins power. I mean, including education ministry, gender ministry, health, employment. Do you see her to have what it takes for the kind of efficiency needed in these sectors?
I don't know what Ghanaians expect of a woman who has gone through the mill and has risen to this level. I don't know. He has all the experience. In terms of knowledge, he has all that. People who have occupied this position previously, do they match up in terms of her pedigree, in terms of what, experience, the quality of person she is? No.
Don't forget that the academia is different from the real life issues.
Yeah, what is different about, are you not managing human resources? Are you not managing? Remember that the university is a microcosm of what, the country. All ethnic groups are there. All religious groups are there. All workers are there. When you are managing both home and abroad. There are foreign students who are there. You are managing resources. And I'm telling you, there's a big one. For you to able to even go through the mill and get to that top, it is not easy. I'm telling you. So if you think that, or if somebody thinks that, oh, he has gone through the university and it's not enough, I'm afraid that's a big one. Let them occupy just a position as a head of department. They will run away and leave their standards behind. And I challenge people who are saying that, look, he's old, he's this and that, he's not fit for purpose and all that. If those people have those individuals in their homes, I challenge them to bring them forward. And then, mention their names to other parties to use them as running mate. Then we are in competition. Otherwise, they should keep their mouth shut. I'm not saying that this woman, there is nothing that can be said against her and all that. But the issue is that if you have anything, bring it out. That is the basis of it. Because my understanding is that we are making sure that we bring the women up to scratch. We develop them to become the best for society. So if you want to undermine them unnecessarily, people like that will stand up and then support them. All women, it doesn't matter the political divide you find yourself. And I challenge those people that whatever they have against any of our, running mates, including this woman, they should bring it forward. And that will enhance the conversation and make it better. But for me, she has the experience, he has the capacity, he has the wherewithal to be able to manage any office. Remember that the public office is not run by an individual alone. We use the bureaucrats to run the affairs of the state. So where she falls short in terms of what expertise, other public officials, the bureaucrats will support her to lift up her game. After all, if you've seen the leaders who have had, some are engineers, some are lawyers, they've been able to manage this office. How much more somebody who has administered at the university level as a CEO of the university and has held a position as a minister for education, that big portfolio, I can say without fear of contradiction that he'll be able to manage the affairs of the state.
Well,
give them the power.
Undoubtedly, there are high expectations, actually, not because, even though she's not the flag bearer, but also because she'll become the first woman vice president this country has produced, and if the NDC wins power, and also because there are a lot of people who have said that she really doesn't have any magic for the NDC to win power. I mean, what are your expectations of her?
The woman is going to complement the effort of John Mahama, and of course, they will build on their party's works, their records, to be able to win support of the people. It is the duty of Ghanaians to assess them, whether it is a party worth considering for this time around, and once that decision is made by the general masses of the people, at the end of the day, they will give them their vote and then they win the election. If that is not the case, Ghanaians will show which party is ready for their service. So it's just a matter of time. But we want quality people to show up and demonstrated knowledge that they understand our situation, they are ready to deal with our problems head on, and they are going to govern us with all honesty, so that we know that we can entrust our political power in their care. If you have people who can just come and then will promise heavens and then give us something that is not meaningful, we'll take political notice of that. And when opportunity avails itself the next time, we'll throw them out. It's a simple matter.
I'm grateful for your time. Dr. Asante, he is a senior political science lecturer with the University of Ghana Department of Political Science. He's also head of the Center for European Studies at the university. And election headquarters is brought to you by Petrosol, your clean fuel in full quantity, Chartered Institute of Management Accountants, the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, together as the Association of International Certified Professional Accountants, and German Ozone Medical Center, alternative therapy, dental, wellness, and beauty. Let's move on to other stories. And investigators on the GRA SML deal are demanding the publication of the full audit report from KPMG. President Akufo-Addo has given the Ghana Revenue Authority the go-ahead to continue the audit contracts of the downstream petroleum sector with Strategic Mobilization Limited after receiving the report from KPMG. According to him, the deal is crucial in saving the country resources. But the Fourth Estate, which exposed the anomalies in the contracts, want the full report published. Here is lead investigator Manasseh Azuriawani.
That the president decided to look into it and certain actions have been taken. It is important to stress that the component of the contract that has been cancelled is the biggest component in terms of the revenue we are saving. The upstream, petroleum, and also the mining sector components of the contract, per our production figures as a country, we were going to pay about $90 million to KPMG every single year. So that angle has been, or component has been cancelled. So it is significant savings, in addition to some price verification aspect that has also been cancelled. Now, the part that has been kept is the downstream petroleum contract. And that one, the president based his decision to keep the contract on the basis that SML is checking under reporting and under declaration. If you watch our documentary, we put this question to SML and asked whether they were doing under reporting or they were checking under the reporting or under declaration. The company said they were doing none of those services.
It was on their website.
It was on their website, and after we confronted them, they deleted that information from their website. The GRA, which awarded the contract to SML, also told us that SML did not and does not check under reporting or under declaration. The most disturbing part of that contract is the measurement that SML's meters claim to be taken. Those measurements are not used for tax purposes by even the GRA, which contracted them. We asked the SML engineers, which of the recordings, you know, the NPA has a system called the ERDMS that is connected to the customs system, the ICOMS. And it is the figures that go through the NPA system that are used for tax purposes. And SML's engineers explained that their meters, the SML meters, are non-intrusive. They are placed on the pipelines, but the meters at the depots that go through the NPA system that is used by customs, they take more accurate recording because they are intrusive. They take the exact measurement of petroleum product that goes through them. So the very basis for keeping that contract, that SML is checking under declaration, under reporting, the company has said on record, and it is in our documentary, on camera, that we don't do those services.
So on what basis then will the presidency be acting by saying that that contract should rather go on when KPMG, and as we've watched in your documentary, have clearly alluded to the fact that they are not doing that work, and in fact have put SML, I should say, and have in fact gone ahead to take down that aspect from their website. But here we see in the president's directives that contract must stay. So what might be contributing to that, especially when KPMG is simply telling you don't have that? Do you see that maybe KPMG has been shown contracts, probably that have been signed, for which reason the president now said that should go on?
Well, I would be very measured in perhaps attacking KPMG until I see the KPMG report. Because I did a JIDA investigation, the president issued some directives on the JIDA report. But when the report itself was published, it was worse than what the presidency issued. This was in 2013. So with this experience, I'm a bit measured. But what we can say is that, look, it is good news to the Republic of Ghana that the upstream petroleum contract and the gold mining contracts are off the table.
Well, the Strategic Mobilization Limited has in the last few hours issued a response to the controversy. Kweku Asante joins me in the studio with details of that response. Kweku, how is the SML responding to this controversy?
Well, Aisha, the SML statement is quite detailed. It responds to some of the concerns and some of the findings of the KPMG in this audit report that it investigated. For instance, when it came to the allegations of impropriety, KPMG, the report actually spoke about how some amount of money had been given and all that. KPMG says that report, according to SML, they believe that the report by KPMG debunks what they call a false claim that $100 million had been paid to SML by the investigators. You heard in the investigation that Manasseh put out. They also talk about what they believe is that the need for SML services has been affirmed, and they think that the president asking them to continue with certain parts of this contract shows that this contract is important, it is necessary for the state to benefit from it. Then they disagree with certain findings of KPMG. They say that they disagree with the findings that a need assessment was not done before the SML commenced the operations. They also disagree with KPMG finding that the transaction audit and external price verification agreements were all not properly done. And then KPMG also found in the report that the delivery of the contract was not up to a certain level and that they were below par delivery of the contract. So while the contract was important, KPMG did not do so, SML did not do so much of a good work. SML in this statement say they disagree with that from KPMG, and they say SML rejects KPMG's assessment that it partially delivered on several requirements regarding the transaction audit service agreement, and that regarding the transaction audit services, SML delivered fully on its obligations as outlined in the contract. And then it goes on to talk about what they believe the KPMG misquoted certain figures or they were misled in making certain representation in terms of the amount of money that has actually been paid. KPMG in their report talked about how a compensation of 1,061 million cedis have already been paid to SML. KPMG says, SML says that is not so accurate. And then they say that it's interesting to know that this figure is quoted without reference to the investments made and the taxes that have been paid by SML over the period within the consolidated contract. And so overall, they say that the KPMG report exonerates SML and confirms the need for the company's proven services, Aisha.
Right, so it does appear that a lot more people are demanding for the full report. Definitely, the full report will put the matter to rest. Kweku Asante, thank you so much for bringing us those details. Let's now get to other stories. A prison service officer has sustained a gunshot wound after a clash between prison service officers and military personnel Wednesday afternoon in Bawku in the Upper East region. Details of the cause of the clash are still sketchy as the Regional and Municipal Security Council have remained silent on the matter. But some JoyNews sources in Bawku said the military officers were angered after the prisons officers protected some civilians who sought refuge with the prisons officers after the military pursued them. The two civilians are said to have been a nuisance at a function at the Bawku Chief's Palace, and when the military pursued them in order to discipline them, they ran to the prisons to seek refuge. The military officers then demanded that the prisons officers release the civilians to them, an order which the prisons officers were reluctant to obey, and misunderstanding ensued. I've been joined by Upper East Region correspondent Albert Story, who has more on this. Albert, what more details do you have about this incident?
Yes, Aisha. So, as you said earlier, the
information we have gathered on this are a bit sketchy because the security apparatus have refused to comment on the matter for now. But what we do know is that these two civilians you mentioned were, causing some sort of nuisance when the Bawku was inaugurating a committee for his 40th anniversary celebration. And so the army officers tried to, the military officers tried to discipline them, and they ran away. They actually thought that they were not being pursued, but after a while, some of the military personnel pursued them, and they ran into the prison's office. It was at this point that the officers went there and, tried to demand that they release these two civilians for them to discipline them. But from what we understand, the prisons officers were also trying to plead with the military to leave them once they have realized their mistake, and they were pleading with them. But after a while, it just sort of degenerated into a misunderstanding between the military officers who had gone to the prisons, and there was some sort of scuffle. And after a while, the military officers left the scene and later returned with more of their personnel, and then there was chaos. We are told that even police officers came to the scene and tried to intervene, but the prisons officers and then the military officers would not listen, and it was a sort of exchange of fisticuffs. It was complete chaos, very close to the prison's forecourt. And it was in this process that a gun was fired, and the prison's officer that talked about sustained the injury, and he's currently receiving treatment in the hospital. But one more thing I should add, Aisha, is that some people also say that there was an earlier scuffle between one prisons officer and then another military officer some time ago, which resulted in some prisons officer, some of the prisons officers, beating up the military officers some time back. And so there seems to be some sort of old feud between them, which just sort of also escalated because of yesterday's incident. But as I said, as we speak, the regional minister and the municipal chief executive for Bawku have not commented on the matter for now. So we do not know the exact details of how this whole thing started and where it is going from there.
What's the mood in the area this morning?
Well, there hasn't been any problem. Normally in Bawku, when people are shot because of the conflict, then there is some sort of tension in the air. But in this case, it's between military officers. So people are talking about it, but then they are moving about their everyday activity. There hasn't been any sort of disruption to daily life in Bawku. And so everything is calm at the moment. What we do not know is how the security hierarchy, in terms of the leadership, are going to handle this matter. Because if the reports that there is an old feud between these two factions is still there, chances are that this thing is not going to end. And so these are the things that people are talking about. And some people are even worried that, the security people who should be protecting the civilians are themselves engaging in this sort of thing. So that's what is happening in Bawku.
Albert, sorry, it's our correspondent at the Upper East region. We'll definitely bring you more of this in our subsequent bulletins as it unfolds. We'll take a break on JoyNews. That's when we'll return this business.
Africa
A new era has begun, shifting our focus to a new horizon, connecting us with one purpose: to create and share opportunities to grow. Today, we are making a brighter tomorrow, built by our dreams and our energy. Across our continent, across the world, we are creating a better way to a better future. A Pan-African future. Together. EcoBank. A better way. A better Africa.
You worked hard for your money, and DSTV gives you a lot more to enjoy for a lot less than you think. So rather than fast food just for you, how about entertainment for the whole family? Instead of date night with your bae, how about countless nights for you, bae, and the kids? And don't settle for a few hours with your homies. Settle in with over 720 hours of the best entertainment on the continent.
Triple drum roll.
We've got everything, including movies, series, sport, kids,
Totally awesome.
and local shows.
I'm here.
Watch on the go with DSTV Stream and control your entire account with the My DSTV app. Enjoy incredible extras like crystal clear HD, box office, and catch up. And with so many different package options, there's something to suit every pocket. DSTV, a lot more to enjoy for a lot less than you think.
Hi, good morning. Welcome to Business. My name is Darrell Kwao. The Ghana Shippers Authority has criticized a practice where state agencies import goods and leave them at the ports, resulting in a cost to the country through demurrage and rent charges. According to the authority, the country lost $24 million to foreign shipping lines in demurrage, majority of which were incurred by state agencies. Yes, more.
The figures were disclosed at a workshop organized by the Ghana Shippers Authority to educate representatives of state-owned agencies such as Metropolitan, Municipal, and District Assemblies on the need to reduce demurrage charges. Speaking on behalf of the CEO of the authority, the director in charge of operations, Sylvia Sanat-Daudo, said such acts lead to financial loss to the state.
A cursory look at the uncleared cargo list reveals consignment of state-owned agencies that have overstayed at the port, with some chalking hundreds of days at the port. Even though these consignments are not forfeited to the state for purposes of auction, their eventual clearance will be accompanied by huge demurrage and rent charges accumulated over the period. The authority reiterates its appeal to chief directors, chief executives, managing directors, and other relevant officers of MDAs, SOEs, to take urgent action to ensure that these consignments are expeditiously cleared from the port to mitigate the use of state resources for such avoidable cost. As an agency established to champion the interests of importers, exporters in Ghana, the authority is of the firm belief that where shippers do not occasion delays, they should not bear the associated cost. This requires all stakeholders in the shipping value chain to be minded about the cost of their actions or inactions.
Providing some recommendations on measures being taken to have a uniform system in accounting for demurrage charges, Head of Shipper Services and Trade Facilitation, Mrs. Monica Josiah, said the authority is engaging all stakeholders on the issue.
That when you get your own container, it's not as though you don't pay customs duty. But looking, when you do the cost-benefit analysis, I believe that even paying the customs duty is better. And in any case, the customs duty remains here in Ghana. So at least you know that whatever you are paying will remain here in Ghana. So that is what I want to say to that. Now, in respect of the getting the shipping lines to count demurrage, like for us to have clarity and uniformity on demurrage-free days, the authority has severally engaged a number of them. Currently, what we are doing is we are creating a working group with various service providers, including the shipping agents, for us to look at these things. And like the chair said, our law is also being strengthened to really give effect, because some people will start counting demurrage at different times.
Now, last week, the government raised 3.34 billion cedis through its treasury bill auction, slightly below the 3.37 billion cedi target. However, Fidelity Bank's Deputy Managing Director, Ataye Boajan, explains that the reduced interest in the recent auction is linked to the Bank of Ghana's recent policy shift, which raised the cash reserve ratio from 15% to 25%. This change has led banks to reconsider their strategies. Mr. Jan shared this insight with Joy Business at the Money Summit in Accra.
Say that each bank has a reason for perhaps not participating in the auction for treasury bills. But the overriding issue, consideration now, is that, and I'm sure you know, Bank of Ghana has increased the cash reserve requirement from 15 to 20% and 25%, depending on where you stand in terms of your loan to deposit ratio. Many of the banks are in the high end of reserving 25%. Now that's a huge amount of money, and so if you don't have that money, and I don't expect banks to have the money sitting down, that money would either be in investment like treasury bills or in loans. And so to meet that requirement, your preoccupation is to ensure that the money you have, any money that comes in, is reserved to meet that requirement. And so you have a choice between breaching the requirement and investing in T-bills. And I think as a bank regulated entity, your first option will be to meet the requirements before you think of investment. And treasury bills are investment instrument for banks. And so that probably is the reason why for the past 2 weeks you haven't seen banks participating as we used to be in those auctions. But I think individuals are participating as normal. So it has nothing to do with fear of sovereign default or where the country finds itself. And I believe it's temporary. As banks meet, I'm sure they'll go back to the auctions and invest.
Thank you very much. I'll be glad if I can get your complimentary.
All right, there's more business news on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. I shall be back to wrap up the news.
And that's our wrap up the bulletin this morning. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. Log on to myjoyonline.com for more of the news and updates of all the developing stories. See you again at 12.
In a land where dreams are often cradled in the arms of hope, there exists a league of unsung heroes. They are the silent architects of change, the torchbearers who illuminate paths where once there was only darkness. From the verdant stretches of our farms to the innovative labs of science, from the warm embrace of humanitarian aid to the simplest acts of kindness. These are the change makers who sculpt the future of our nation, stitch by stitch. Unknown to them, their acts of selflessness have resonated across the land, stirring the hearts of many and sparking a movement of recognition and celebration. It's that time of the year again. JoyNews proudly presents the Impact Makers Award.
So finally, we saw the outdooring of Professor Jane Nana Opoku-Agyeman, the running mate to John Dramani Mahama. Tonight, we're going to examine what she's been saying a bit closer. We're going to look at the Nana Opoku-Agyeman effect. And we're beginning to get a sense of what she may be doing differently in this election cycle this year compared to what she did in the 2020 election cycle. We're going to be analyzing the energy she brought today and the fact that today, she removed the gloves. But was she effective in what she was communicating today? We're going to be analyzing that. We're going to be bringing in somebody who worked very closely to her, but also analysts who can unpack some of the specifics that we heard. Well, let's pretend for a second I don't know who I'm talking about. You know now that she is the running mate, and she was the running mate to John Dramani Mahama in the last elections, and many had criticized her performance in 2020. Because of what happened in the central region, which is a home region. And as you have monitored us over the last few hours, as we covered and analyzed this outdooring, we had stripped down to the KEA constituency in the central region, where she actually hails from. And my colleagues had brought up the Indum factor and that she should have secured some more votes from there, that it doesn't appear that she did. I'll analyze that for you pretty shortly before we sit down. Remember, elections are primarily about votes. How much can she contribute to the John Mahama ticket? How many votes can she deliver? And that's a question that she would need to prove that she can bring a bit more to the ticket this time round. Of course, she's education minister between 2013 and 2017. And the important thing about this is, tonight we've heard from John Dramani Mahama tell us that if they win the elections this year, Professor Jane Nana Opoku-Agyeman will be given special responsibility in charge of education, health, gender, and social protection. That is going to be her brief as a vice president if they win. Now, what was not said to us is whether she'll still chair the economic management team. Well, John Mahama did, and she had no economic background, so would she? Or the fact that John Mahama has spelled out what her role specifically will be, it takes out that responsibility, which has been traditionally occupied by vice presidents in this country. We'll get some clarity for you when we sit down for a conversation. Of course, first the vice chancellor in Ghana, University of Cape Coast, again in this region, central region. And then we look at the chair of the UNESCO National Commission. So she's done some work, and she comes to this particular role with some gravitas. And we heard John Mahama say today that, again, they want to use her to reach out to the international community. And now maybe you can appreciate why, because of that role that she played there at the UNESCO National Commission as a chair there. Maybe she has some connections at the international level that she can leverage to help the cause of the party, but also the government if they win power, right? So that's another key point to note. But this point for me, this number is important. You cannot look beyond the fact that she is a woman, right? This is the first time you're seeing a female running mate to one of the two main political parties, the MPP and the NDC. None of those parties have chosen a woman before. But again, this is not the first time because the NDC did it in 2020. So she's returning. They've kept faith with her. If you were wavering, if you're a woman and wavering, and you saw the faith that the party had reposed in her and not dumped her after the 2020 elections, and 22% of all registered voters we know are female, does this inure to the NDC's favor? It's a key question that we need to answer tonight. The fact that we have 22%, the majority of registered voters are women, but would they necessarily identify with her electorally because she's a woman? That's a key question. My guests will attempt that answer. But you can't ignore that factor and that it will play a role somewhat because at least I have a ticket that has a woman on it, and if I'm going to cast my ballot, will that count in making a decision? We'll analyze that for you. So we're pulling up that number. But again, if you look at what happened in the last elections, the number of registered female voters, you're talking about 8.8 million. And that's, again, key, right? And so we're beginning to sort of unpack the numbers that she can tap into as a female running mate. The first for one of the two main political parties, right? Yes, she did that in 2020. She's been maintained. Repose a lot of confidence in her. And you look at that total number of 2.7, 1.35 million of that female. So you cannot ignore this number in elections. And that is why you've heard the argument also within the MPP ranks that even the MPP presidential candidate is considering some female interested parties as he decides who becomes his running mate. I'm talking to Dr. Bawumia. We've had the likes of Natoshi, we've had the likes of the current chief of staff, Fremo Pare, all of them considered because of these numbers that we've been talking about, these numbers that we've been highlighting there. They've seen it and they want to see if they can tap into that. But when I begin to look at the numbers, you begin to see that it's not automatic, that because you have lots of women on the voter roll, they won't necessarily be voting for Jane Opoku-Agyeman, right? That is an important point to look at. And you look at the updates there, the key numbers that we are looking at. The 2023 update, first-time voters of that. Again, it's an area I want to tap into. She's appealing to the youth today. When she was delivering her address, she paused and asked if the youth are in auditorium, and they clapped for her. And she's deliberately pitching herself in that particular bracket of demographic that will be voting in this year's elections. And we'll watch how that works for her. But this is the key thing. Everything else she says, whether she is a woman or not, pales in comparison with how many votes she can bring to the table, right? So you look at the central region in the presidential race, and this is what she brought to the ticket in 2020. And go back to 2016, the lowest ebb for John Dramani Mahama. At that time, he had with him somebody else from the central region, who, of course, the late Emisa Arthur, right? And they dipped to 43.40%. And then Jane got on the ticket, and it rise to 45.90%. Is she the only reason why that happened? Absolutely not. Is she a factor? Absolutely yes. There's momentum there on your side. And we have said the biggest value she brings to this ticket is stability. You see momentum there. You don't want to change that. You want to keep that status quo. Don't rock the boat, because she is helping you lift your game from that significant dip in 2016. And that is why, in essence, we believe she was kept there. Stability. Consolidate your gains and hope that you can improve that. And as that takes upwards, you want that trajectory to continue. So why change that? Why change that particular ticket? And we believe that may have played a role, maybe the central role in John Mahama's decision. And you see that here. They're narrowing the gap. When she got on the ticket, they narrowed the gap between the MPP's blue, which you see up there, for 54.1% in the central region, to NDC's 45.90%. They're narrowing the gap. And so you want that narrowing to continue, maybe intersect this year or win it, right? But that is a presidential. But they overturned their defeat when it comes to the parliamentary in the central region. For a 2016 loss of significant numbers of seats there, as far as parliamentary is concerned, only 4, when they had significantly won that in the 2012 election, 16 seats, they dropped all the way down to 4. How many seats did they lose? 12 seats in 2016. Guess what happened in 2020 when Jinan Opoku-Agyeman got onto the ticket? They clawed back victory there in terms of the seats. They got back to 13. The MPP dropped to 11. Again, can you attribute that to her? Absolutely not, because the parliamentary elections is on the strength of the parliamentary candidate in the constituency. But of course, she will have to take part of the credit. After all, she is on the ticket. The parliamentary candidate, of course, takes the overwhelming majority of the plaudits if they won, but the ticket also does too. And that is why you don't change that formula. That gives you momentum. That's another key point there. And you begin to see the deviation, the difference in vote share over the period that she's been on in Ashanti, in the Bono, in the Central, all trending in the positives. If you look at from comparing 2016 to 2020, those are the factors maybe that John Mahama, a camp, considered in retaining her. But she's spoken today, and she said a few things. She's talked about corruption. She talks about every individual who has been part of the corruption and plundered the state as far as this government is concerned. She says they will bear the brunt, and that is not a threat, but the promise. She's talking tough, but can she back that with action? That was scripted. Can she stand on her own ground?